It's revisited, not reimagined, not reprised, not rerun, revisited. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Project's Crown Jewels. That's right. This is an alternative YouTube page to my main PLD projects. Of course, you're listening on audio. It doesn't really matter because it's all in the same feed for that. But Crown Jewels, a journey through Queen, is where I go through every Queen song in the catalog, also the solo catalog. We talk about it. I rank the different versions of it, and we create the ultimate playlist for the Crown Jewels of Queen, Freddie, Brian, Roger, and even John. This week's episode, In the Lap of the Gods Revisited. This is a great song to get into the last studio track from 1974's Sheer Heart Attack. But first, this is your first time here, hit that like, hit that subscribe. It's a little favor, we're trying to reach towards some modest goals. We could use your help. And if you like this and other topics here on the channel, hey, you want to come back for more. Anyway, let's get into it now. In the Lap of the Gods Revisited, we have a bunch of different tracks to talk about, different versions of it. We have the studio version from the album. We got a digital master sampler edit from a 1994 compilation. We have a alternative version where that was on a Trident reel-to-reel tape. We have an early take that was a convention source demo that we've heard. We have a bunch of different live versions, live at Wembley in '86, live at Hungary, live at Budapest, Hungarian Rhapsody, 1986, live at the Rainbow, 1974, live at Hammersmith, 1975, Queen and Adam Lambert, live in Japan in 2014, and an interesting unreleased version, Brian May singing it as live at a birthday party for Freddie in 1999. Let's get to it. I have the links in the description so you can follow along. Anytime we get to a place where we're going to listen to a track together, you can pause the podcast, click on that link, listen to it, come back, and we'll talk about it. Up first is the studio version. That's going to be the first one we're going to listen to, the one from Sheer Heart Attack in 1974. First, a few notes and quotes, as they say. Written by Freddie Mercury, features Freddie on lead and backing vocals and the piano, Brian on guitars and backing vocals, John on bass, Roger on drums, and also on backing vocals. This track was really an early forerunner to We Are the Champions. It's a very Hey Jude inspired type sing-along, which often closed many of the concerts from here until We Are the Champions really took over. It's kind of got that bar atmosphere, that bar sing-along atmosphere. It gets the public involved, gets the audience involved. A lot of fun. It does share very little with its namesake. Obviously, we talked about In the Lap of the Gods previously, the non-revisited version. Very different song, very different song. They share a little bit as far as themes go, letting things be, not forcing issues, but musically speaking, vocally speaking, a very different track. Now, this was, like I said, mentioned, it played live through 1977 when We the Champions took over, but it was reintroduced for the medley, the Queen medley in 1986. Rare song that Freddie actually used his falsetto live for. I've mentioned that before. When he's live, he tended to avoid his falsetto, take things down a little bit. He tried alternate melodies, but for a lot of times, especially in '86, he would do the high parts, the really high parts that were very falsetto, very high, very crystal clear. But I do like that quite a bit. It's interesting to see. So, that's the only notes and quotes I have. So why don't we go right into it? Let's get right into it. Let's listen to the studio version. We'll come back and we'll talk about it. Do it now. In the lap of the gods. And there we have it, In the Lap of the Gods, revisited from the studio album. I do love this track quite a bit. Every time I listen to it, I realize how much I love it more. It really feels loose and easy on the rhythm. Very melodic, very hypnotic, kind of drags you along. But really, it's actually deceptively complex because it's a very precise musical structure. Kind of it's very much like a waltz in that kind of way. You can't really leave anything to chance there, and yet the way they play it, you kind of feel like it's got this loosey-goosey feel to it. It's kind of a strange feeling. It's kind of like you feel one way, even though it's definitely another. But anyway, we start off with the piano, bass, and the drums. No really Brian in the beginning until the chorus comes in, and Brian kind of accompanies it with some power chords. A very nice melody. It's very, like I said before, it's hypnotic. I do like the first two times we get the sing-along part, the whoa, whoa, la, la, la parts done solo. Just Freddie, no backing vocals, no choir, no audiences later on as it would be, because it makes it a good build. And when it builds, it becomes more climactic, more extremely powerful as we go along. The second verse comes in, we get this great loose bass line by John, who definitely gets to play around on the fret a little bit, not providing the low parts. He's really kind of providing a counter melody at times, but always slips back in to remind you that he's down low underneath. He does provide the structure when it's needed, but he kind of goes off and does his own thing. But it's a nice little thing to kind of follow through as you're listening to Freddie sing. You listen to John's bass kind of flowing around. A lot of coolness there. It got a very repetitive ending. I'm not going to lie there. That's the only downside that somebody might have. I don't think it's a downside at all. I kind of feel like it's nice because every time it starts building towards the end, every line through, they start doing this whoa, whoa, la, la, la's together. It adds to it. It feels like every time the new one's sung, there's more voices added to it, And I defy you. If you're singing there with a beer in your hand and your mate on your side, I defy you not to like kind of throw your arms around your mate and sway side to side while singing along. It's that kind of drunken, fun, like sing along kind of song. And it's a great way to end a concert because it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy, makes you feel like even the song doesn't seem to be a happy type song, but it feels happy and it really tickles your emotions. So I do really enjoy this one. But let's move on to some of the other versions. Some other versions I will touch on that we will not listen to. There is the digital master sampler edit. I did put that in the description for you if you want to listen to it. There's not much different to it. There's the explosion at the end of the track is just cut a little short. Basically, that's all it is. It's the same track otherwise. Similarly is the reel-to-reel version. Now, we are going to listen to this one because basically there's a different ending. It's pretty much the same track. What the reel-to-reel is, from Queen, to quote queenvault.com, which is a great resource if you're a Queen fan. It said, in February 2012, a Scotch 10-inch reel-to-reel master recording of Sheer Heart Attack was auctioned in the UK. The tape was sourced from Trident Studios and came directly from a colleague of John Reid. The tape features 6 tracks: Lap of the Gods Part 2, as it's labeled, Brighton Rock, Killer Queen, Now I'm Here, Dear Friends, and She Makes Me. On all these tracks, but 2 of the album version. And this version of Lap of the Gods Revisited, labeled as Part 2, has a different ending with a large explosion. The track continues on with the band playing this kind of rough end, and you can kind of hear the producer Roy Thomas Baker bantering in the background. So it's worth a shot, worth listening to. And because it has a different ending, I'm going to enter it into our Crown Jewel playlist possibility list as we go through it. So let's listen to that one now. This is the reel-to-reel version here on Crown Jewels. And there you have it again, the Trident reel-to-reel version, and not much different. Actually, not very different at all, except for that ending. But it's kind of a cool ending, right? It's kind of cool if you're a Queen fan. You really feel like you're in the studio with the boys. Get to hear this like false ending because there's not really an ending. They kind of just peer out and you start hearing Roy Thomas Baker talk to them. It's always kind of cool to hear those in the studio moments. So again, if I'm going to listen to it, I'm probably not going to listen to this version very much, but it's nice to hear every once in a while. Similarly to that, one we're not going to listen to is the early take because it is a convention source demo. If this was an early take, was a good version, a good released version, I would listen to it. I have a link down below if you want to listen to it. It is covered, of course, by the property of Queen Productions. It is kind of not a great sound quality to it, but if you really are interested in the song, it is a nice part of the development. It's a full instrumental take of the track. Get to hear a little bit more of that piano, a little bit more of the bass. The ending, again, there's no explosion at the ending here either, so a little more of that piano fade out. But we're not going to listen to it, but as part of the Crown Jewel segment, because it definitely would not be the Crown Jewel I would listen to. We're listening to the Crown Jewel, you're listening to the creme de la creme, the best version of the track. That's not this. So from there, we're going to go on to the live versions of the track. That's the end of the studio versions. Now we're going to talk about the live versions. And if you've come with me so far, I think you kind of got to have an instinct that the live versions are going to be fun because it's written to be fun. It kind of has that audience sing-along vibe. It has the energy of the audience already in the studio take. So what's it going to be when you actually put it live? We'll start out Live the Rainbow from 1974. In your description, go to it, and come back, and we'll talk for more. Real quick, there is actually two versions in there. The one is the official audio version, and there's actually a video version in case you want to watch it all go down. Either way, it's pretty much similar sound. You'll get the vibe. It's not like a convention demo or anything. So let's move on. Live at the Rainbow 1974, and come back for more.
It's so easy that I can't do it.
And there we are, live at the Rainbow 1974. Not a whole lot of difference between the live version and the studio version. It feels like the studio version was just live to tape almost. It was layered, obviously, at some points, but the live version sounds very similar. The only big difference is Freddie sometimes avoids a falsetto, especially in that second verse. He comes in, he just takes it down a little bit, but he also offers up some nice alternative melodies, which are kind of cool to hear. There might be some lyrical mishaps here, a little questionable lyrics here and there, but that's okay. Interestingly enough, the Queen backing vocals come in a little earlier than the studio album. It doesn't usually the Freddie by himself in the first time through. Queen comes in pretty much right in the second time through. It's a great performance. I love watching Freddie at the piano. He doesn't do that quite as much throughout the rest of his career. As he goes on, he uses the piano less and less because he likes playing to the audience. Here we get a little bit of both. He plays the piano for most of it, but as the end comes, he lets Brian take care of the rhythm section, and he goes in front of the audience with a stage full of smoke, commanding that stage and having that sing-along go. It does end kind of quickly. I kind of think it should have gone a little further. You could have dragged that out. You could have had that more emotions, more a crowd give and take potentially, but a very good version nonetheless. Let's look now to Live at the Hammersmith in 1975, 1 year later, and see if there's any differences. Come back for more.
My money, that's all you want to talk about.
And there you have the Hammersmith version. It does feel more like Freddie is in control of this one. He's really commanding the stage a little bit more than he was in the Rainbow version. He does take it down the octave more, but it's very playful with it. A lot of rolling R's on that risky, and he's almost growling at times with how passionate his delivery is. The band feels pretty similar. I think the mix might be a little bit better on Hammersmith, at least to my ears, my aging ears. It's very similar staging. But Freddie feels like he's coming into his own a little bit more. He's controlling the audience a little bit more. He's getting them involved a little bit more. I mean, really, they're very similar performances. It's really up to personal preference, but that's what we have to say about that. All right, let's move on then to the 1986 versions. There's three of them, two from Wembley, one from July 11th, 1986, one from July 12th of 1986, and also later on from Hungarian Rhapsody, live in Budapest. We're going to listen to all three of those because they're all from the same tour, all very similar performances. We'll rank them within the framework of those three. I'm not going to stop and do individual one because that'd be kind of pointless. So let's move on to the 86 versions, or listen to all three and then come back for more. Well, there you have it, the 1986 versions. Okay, I gotta say, it's very strange. I'm pretty vocal about, I want to listen to the best version of the track. I would listen to a full version, not a medley version. I gotta say, these definitely give it a run for its money. They're all truncated down to one verse and then the multitude of choruses. But that's the best part of the song, is the multitude of choruses. As it goes on, it gets more and more epic. There's something about singing along with 70,000 to 80,000 of your closest friends, right? Come on. Freddie does use his falsetto and throughout the song pretty much. And in an interesting mirror, because of the format, he actually begins off the piano with the crowd. And then by the end, comes back to the piano because the medley ends up going on to go into Seven Seas of Rye. I got to tell you, I do love this version quite a bit. Freddie at the peak of his live performances, as far as like his showmanship and his musicianship. It's a great version of the track. There's no doubt about it. All three of them are great. If it was a full version, I think it would be a lock to be one of my crown jewels. It still might be. It depends on what's going to go down as we get closer and closer. But that's not quite where we are yet. We're moving on to two more versions left. The next up, Queen plus Adam Lambert from Live in Japan. I know Adam Lambert is polarizing as far as Queen fans go. Some Queen fans thought they should stop after Freddie. Some people like them with Paul Rodgers. Some people think that Adam Lambert is the best fit since sliced bread. I'm one who's pretty I like Adam. I like Paul. I love Freddie. Freddie's my favorite by far. But I definitely give them all a chance. And let's get into it and see what you think about Queen and Adam Lambert live in Japan doing In the Lap of the Gods Revisited. All right, there you have it, Queen and Adam Lambert. This is a track that does suit Adam's voice pretty well. He is definitely much better, in my opinion, on ballads than he is on the out-and-out bloody rockers. The musical performance is solid throughout. Of course, Adam does do all the falsetto parts. He never shirks away from that at all. The band does sound a little, I don't know, a little stiff though in this one, I gotta say, comparatively. Like I said, in the studio version and the live versions, it was deceptively structured. Like Freddie kind of gave it this loosey goosey rhythm to it. Adam feels more like he's sticking to what it's supposed to be, which to me robs it of part of its biggest charm. The audience is all into it though, so I can't knock that. I do like the audience getting involved as much as they did. Adam's definitely good at that. But yeah, it's a solid version overall. I will say, I'll give a little spoiler, I definitely prefer the Freddie versions. That's usually going to be the case for me. Your miles may vary. It's not a bad version at all, though. I don't want to see like I'm knocking it. I did see Queen and Adam Lambert live in person doing this song, and I was swaying left and right just as much as everybody else was. But there we go. All right, we are moving on to the final track we're going to listen to. It's a very interesting version. Brian May joined the SAS band, which is Spike Edney's all-star band. Spike Edney, of course, the touring keyboardist with Queen since 1984, the fifth member of Queen to the back part of their career. He has since become the musical director of Queen. Still tours them through Paul Rodgers with Adam Lambert, toured with Brian May, toured with Roger Taylor. He's the wizard, and he is a well-known figure in the Queen machine, so to speak. But he does have his own Spike's All-Stars, a lot of rock and roll friends that he collects. Usually people from the Queen Plus days. He has Jamie Moses. He has, Neil Fairclough will play with him, Tyler Warren, a bunch of those people. Brian and Roger were often guests, and one of the dates they did was in September 4th of 1999, Freddie Mercury's birthday. The SAS band and the fan club decided to throw Freddie a little musical birthday, and Brian made an appearance. They did some tracks, Since You've Been Gone, which Brian covered in 1992, Last Horizon, which is a Brian guitar solo, Hammer to Fall, a Dragon Attack with guest Jeff Scott Soto on vocals, Tire Mother Down, and they closed out the Brian portion with Brian on guitar and vocals doing In the Lap of the Gods Revisited. So I'm not going to say anything more. We'll just get right into it. It's in the description. Let's go and hear it and come back for more. And there you have it, Brian May doing his best to make a tribute to Freddie in 1999. Unfortunately, the sound quality is not very good. Obviously, it's a bootleg recording it's just pretty muddy. It's very, very bad. It's not a great copy, I'm not going to lie. I wish we had a crisp, clear copy. It would be kind of fun to listen to that. Brian does go for the falsetto and all. It's nice. He does have a few patchy vocal moments here and there. That's why he's more known for his backing vocals and for his lead vocals are always best when he does those kind of slow, folksy type songs. But he goes for it, gives it his gusto, and it's not bad at all. It's actually pretty fun. The backing band obviously is not Roger or John, so he kind of loses that. Brian's the only member of Queen there. But it's a very well-intentioned version. The crowd's all into it. It's a bunch of fan club crowds. They really get into it. It's stuff I wish we would see Brian and Roger do more of, to be honest. Take those chances, especially in this kind of situation. I get you're not going to have Brian sing this in front of a concert at Madison Square Garden, but I like these little gigs where you can just do these tracks and just have fun. People like to see it. It's a member of Queen doing a Queen track from back in the day. I'm glad we have it, even if it isn't the one I would choose for the crown jewel for sure. But with that being said, what is our crown jewel? What's my ranking? What do we do here? Let's move on and figure that out. All right, now first, let's rate the track. On a scale of 1 to 11, because we always turn it up to 11 on PLD projects, I'm giving this one a solid 10.5. I do love it. It's a feel-good song, especially when you get it in front of 70,000 people. Great sing-along track, great musically speaking, again, deceptively tight. It feels loose. It's got everything that I like. It's got a lot of great vocals to it, a great melody, great moments. It's still just a fun, simple track. It's not as complex as a lot of Queen songs are. And get that kind of like in-depth, different, shifting of genres, shifting of tempos here and there. There's something to be said about a song that you just want to sing along with, and I want to sing along with this one. So I'm going to give it a 10.5, and that slides Great King right out of my top 10. Stone Cold Crazy drops to 10. Tenement Funster now at 9. My Fairy King at 8. Seven Seas of Rye at 7. In the Lap of the Gods Part 1 at 10. Or at 6 rather. Brighton Rock at 5. Lily of the Valley at 4. In the Lap of the Gods Revisited at a solid number 3 in my top 10 Queen songs, Queen related songs so far. We still have the March of the Black Queen and White Queen as it began on top. We'll see. I don't know when those are ever going to change. Well, guess we're going to find out. All righty, the last thing to do then in this week's episode, what is the crown jewel or the best version of In the Lap of the Gods Revisited? What is going to go into the ultimate playlist? Let's rank them from bottom to top. Last but not least, the reel-to-reel version. I do say I like the version a lot, but I'm going to listen to the album version over that anytime. It's just kind of a fun oddity to listen to with the ending being in the studio. Fun oddity, not the crown jewel. Up from that, we got Brian live in 1999. I hate to put him so low, but the sound quality really makes it something I would not listen to very often. It's more of an interesting oddity as well. It's not bad. Brian does a great job with it, but we can't really hear a whole lot of it. And well, Brian's not exactly Freddie, so it's hard to say otherwise. I mean, again, crown jewel, best version. This is a good version. It's a fine version. I'd love to see him do it today. But this is where it goes for me in this ranking. Up from there, we got Queen and Adam Lambert's Live in Japan version. Again, not even necessarily about Adam as far as his voice goes, more about the way the music kind of doesn't quite fit that loosey-goosey rhythm I get. I don't want to sway as much as what I do with the Freddie ones. Great version by Adam. He has a great voice, but unfortunately, this is where it falls for me. From there we get the Rainbow 1974 version, which I feel is almost like I hate putting it that low. I mean, that means I'm putting it below some of the medley versions. And that's very hard for me to stomach, but the medley versions just have a certain panache to them, a certain energy that I don't think the Rainbow version had, which is sad to say because Rainbow 74 is one of my favorite concerts of all time. But, it is what it is. From there, this is where it gets nuts, folks. I'm putting the album version there. It means the 86 medley versions are going above the album version. That's nuts to me because it's just really, you don't even have a complete song, but yet they have that good of energy that it can overcome the truncated versions of the track. And now that I'm on that, this is where I put the 86 versions. I do group them in one track because they are similar. They're all pretty much the same type of performance, a little bit different. It's only a couple of minute long song. You can't have too many variations. If I had to pick in bottom, Wembley, July 12th, Wembley, July 11th, Hungarian Rhapsody is my favorite of the three, but that's really personal preference at this point. Nothing you can really detail why, just kind of a gut feeling, which means that my the live version from Hammersmith 1975 is our crown jewel of the week. I do love the Hammersmith version. Freddie's really kind of taking a step forward from Rainbow. The energy is there. It is the full song. It's a nice, they end the concert that way, so you might as well end the album that way as well. So yeah, that's where it is, folks. Crown Jewel in the Lap of the Gods Revisited is from Hammersmith 1975. From A Night at the Odeon is the album that came from. All righty, there we go. There we have it. Thank you so much for sticking with me here this week. Next week, we go on to the Sheer Heart Attack Tour and include their cover of Big Spender, but that's next week. This week, I want to thank some patrons. Matthew Kearns, love to see Matty Kearns join the crew. Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, John Lestrina, and the rest of you. I couldn't do it without you. If you'd like to join up, patreon.com/PLD Projects. That'd be also wonderfully appreciated. Got a great crew there. Love to have you join us. Also, again, if this is your first time here, like, subscribe. Got a lot of great content on PLD Projects. I'd love to see you stick around for the journey. Until next week, then, I guess. God save the queen, everybody.